We're gonna call the meeting to order. Clerk Kalina, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Present. Mayor Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Somerville,
Present.
Councilmember Tucson,
Present.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Present.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Present.
Councilmember King.
Present.
All present, there is a quorum.
Three candidates are able for a moment of silence for the meeting. Yes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So move. Support. Support. All right, it's been moved and supported. Any change, update, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us as we start early so that we can conduct our Ward 3 City Council interviews prior to our regularly scheduled meeting. I'm gonna hand it over to the clerk to just explain the process more if you want me to, and then I'll add some comments.
So the process tonight is council will make a motion on who they would like to interview. Once that motion is made, it will need a second, and then with a roll call vote. Once that is done, the candidates selected for interview will have their name drawn out of this cup here, and that will be the order of interview. The candidates that are not interviewing or are waiting to interview will wait in the meeting room downstairs. After their interview is complete, they're welcome to stay in chambers.
Thank you for coming up. Is there a motion from a member of council?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to interview. Are we trying to say all of the ones or,
Sure. You can say, yeah. Okay, you want.
to interview Amber Fellows, Ashanti Harris and Evan Sweet.
For support for that motion? Support. It's been moved and supported, discussion. I was just interview all of them. Okay, Councilmember Simmons, so you recommend that we interview all four? Why not?
I would support that.
You can amend your motion friendly between you and Councilmember King if you'd like.
Yeah, I would amend to interview all four candidates.
Can you accept the amendment?
I accept.
All right, any further discussion? Clerk Kalina, please call the roll.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville. Oh, sorry. Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons.
Yeah.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
There's 6 yes and 1 absent, the motion carried.
Thank you. So, whoever, you're gonna put the names, in the- oh, they already in the,
You can draw.
so they'll draw the order, and then we'll get started.
First. First interview is Evan Sweet. Second interview is Ashanti Harris. Third is Paul Adams. And fourth is Amber Fellows.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Sweet will be first. The other three candidates are going to be shown to the meeting room. To await being called up. So we'll see you soon. So So Mr. Sweet, while the clerk is running through the room, so the clerk is gonna read all the questions so that council can focus on your answers.
Okay.
You'll have 60 seconds to answer each question, so if you go over time, I will try to stop you. And I think that's it. Like I kind of explained our process, that you're gonna read questions, there'll be 60 seconds to each question, and we'll move through and as such.
Okay, the applicant does have a minute to introduce himself.
Welcome.
Go ahead. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for having me. As many of you know, my name is Evan Sweet. I've been a resident of the city for close to 7 years now. Had a short stint on council during the summer of this year, from July till November. Prior to that, I was involved heavily with the city's Parks and Recreation Commission since 2015. I've been an active member on the Ypsilanti Senior Center Board since about 2018. And my work experience has been in municipal government in Southeast Michigan. So I have a solid background that feel would be a good fit for this position to help advance the city.
Okay, question 1. The Love Stand was recently closed due to lack of permit and zoning issues. How do you ensure that city tools are not used to further inequity, and what are alternatives that we could do to support community needs?
I think that in regards to that working with folks that want to do these things and coming up with a solution. A lot of people want to go and just do things on their own. But I think knowing that there are rules in place, and maybe they're not the best at the current moment, but if whatever that may be, that there's a mutual conversation about how to kind of meet those expectations, what that could look like if there's some middle ground. And having a conversation about it, so it's not just a one side back and forth, she said kind of topic, and seeing what can be focused on to help advance, the greater goal. So.
Second question, data can tell multiple stories based on the lens used and what is prioritized. What kind of information do you seek to help with decision making, and how do you determine what sources of data to center?
That's a good question. I think you have to look at all of your options and not believing the first thing that's presented to you, the second thing, and really weighing all of your resources and using your background, tapping into backgrounds of other people around you that may be more subject matter experts on certain topics, and looking into credible sources, credible online sources that can be of assistance. There may be things that are going to be one-sided, so making sure that you can capture both sides of a specific topic is very important and crucial to making the best informed decision that you can make. So it will involve a lot of research.
Question 3, what does a better Ypsilanti look like to you, and what role would you play in getting there?
A better Ypsilanti looks like, to me, a place that people want to be, continuing to be a arts and cultural hub where people want to raise a family, where they want to spend time, where they can have safe walking routes to schools, parks, to workplaces. And getting there is going to be, looking at things that can be done, whether small or large projects, enhancements into the city's parks, the city's infrastructure, drawing in top tier employees to help lead these charges as well, because council as a whole is not able to do things just themselves. They need another group of people as the staff to do these things. So it's multiple faceted, but making sure that it's a place that people want to be and that they're heard and understood.
Thank you.
Question 4, how do you currently serve or plan on serving the people in the city of Ypsilanti?
So I'm very involved locally in my neighborhood in the city, and have been so for many years since I've been there, and helped kind of coordinate a lot of social events with that group. Been able to make a lot of touch points with neighbors and surrounding neighborhoods as well within the ward to bring awareness of what's happening at the city level, issues, topics, good things that are coming, things they might want to consider looking into, such as the solar project grants that are currently out there. So making those connections, having a open door per se for communication, and being easy to talk to and communicate with is key.
Thank you.
Question 5, what is your approach to handling controversial and complicated issues?
Doing your homework, doing your research on the topics, making sure that you're not making a day of decision, that you've had some time to prep and study and prepare, that you're not coming to the council table, not having read and understood the topic before making a vote on it. And making sure that you're talking to both sides. So there may be some groups that are advocating for a certain thing to happen, and there may be some that are against that specific topic. So making sure you're capturing both sides of the issue and making the best informed decision that you can based on the data that you have in front of you and that you've been able to find yourself.
Question 6, not everyone agrees on everything, and that includes constituents in the various wards. How will you represent the diverse voices in Ward 3?
That happens with my current employment, actually. So now you're not able to please everyone. Working for a community of 100,000 residents, we're not able to provide what everyone specifically wants. So it's balancing the needs of people with what the organization can provide and is able to provide in regards to different resources. So it's being able to have those conversations that, hey, we might not be able to do this, but we can do this instead, or we're working towards that. Here's the steps that we're taking to get there, because we can't do it all at once. So being able to explain to people the why, if something cannot happen, is very important. So they're not just saying, you're not just saying no, but also being able to have that conversation as to, here's what we can do to kind of meet in the middle on that item, or here's what's happening to progress towards this final product.
Question 7, describe a time when your work was criticized. How did you respond?
When my work was criticized. Most recently, I can say that we've had a lot of pushback where I'm at work for processing refunds for memberships to our recreation center. From my supervisor, a lot of that was folks that are either moving out of the area and can't use it, or having health issues. Obviously, in the middle of the pandemic, that was still an issue, so we're still kind of coming off that. So I was more lenient towards the customer and giving them what I think is the right thing to do in the situation, even though it wasn't specifically policy. And he had mentioned to me, why do you keep approving all of these, refunds? And I had to push back a little bit and say, I think that says our policy and procedure says this, but I think doing the right thing in the situation is important. And I had to explain to him why that I thought and why I justified what I did. And he was on board with it after we had that conversation, but knowing that everything you have written down is not always perfect.
Thank you.
Question 8, the city's high taxes are a barrier to residents and businesses. How would you propose to decrease this burden?
Consolidation of services could be potentially one way. I'm looking specifically talking here about, recycling pickup, for example, switching to a bi-weekly schedule with larger recycling bins when those arrive in the spring. So looking at cost saving measures, kind of completing I think an assessment of the organization could be key to see what services and what departments might be able to be consolidated to streamline services. One, to help improve response times, and two, to make sure that staff workload is spread, accordingly as it should be, so that one person's not overwhelmed with a specific item. So working through some of those things to provide streamlined services that could be efficient where you can, and then tightening the belt a little bit on things that, you know, maybe are wants instead of needs within the budget, so that we can get to a good financial footing.
Question 9, how do you plan to involve residents in decision-making in Ypsilanti?
I think that hosting group gatherings, small group gatherings throughout the year, it will be a good opportunity for folks to come and kind of give feedback. Being out and about in the ward, I think that I already do a decent job at that. Definitely could be better. But just listening to what people have to say, again, attending those functions of neighbors, kind of coming to them. You know, not making people always come to you, but kind of going to them, engaging with them, having those, you know, sidewalk conversations as to what's happening, what they think, what their thoughts are, to get feedback and making sure that you're kind of looking at all perspectives and points that people make.
Thank you.
Question 10, what do you think is the most important skill of being a good council person?
Communication. I think someone that can communicate well. There's multiple levels of communication in this position. It's with fellow council colleagues, with the city manager, city clerk, other staff members, and constituents and residents. So there's a lot of communication in this position and making sure that you're effectively communicating, that you're getting your point across, that you're being an active listener, is a huge part of communication too. That you're understanding what people are saying, understanding what their questions are, and turning around and being able to answer those. You're not going to know the answer to every single question that you're asked, but being able to let people know that you'll look into it, you'll do your research, and you'll get back to them with an answer. I think that is a huge piece of it too.
Thank you.
Question 11, in your opinion, what is the most important issue facing our citizens?
To nail it down to one specific issue. I would say it would be cost of living. I think currently right now, everything it's very high. People's rents have increased, you know, costs to renovate and maintain homes, contractors, etc., parts, those have all increased. So I think knowing that people's wages likely have not caught up to that yet, and that there's a lot of different demands on their pocketbook, including the high taxes that we already all know about. So knowing that people may be already stretched to their breaking point, and it will be soon, I think is important for council to think about. One, putting together new things that will impact taxpayers.
Thank you.
Final question, question 12, explain how you would advance racial equity in Ypsilanti.
Racial equity would be talking to neighbors and residents that feel like that they have been underrepresented or underheard, finding ways to get them involved within the city to make sure that they can have a voice in decision making. The amount of boards and commissions the city has is very large, and there's a lot of opportunities within those currently with vacancies for many people to potentially give back some time and also make sure that they can be heard and addressed in a setting that would come to council or come to staff, depending on the board or commission that they're working on, and finding ways to inform them about those opportunities, but also finding ways to inform them about how they can play a role in council decisions, whether that's talking to your council member, how to get a hold of your council member.
Thank you, Mr. Sweet.
Of course.
You are, well, first of all, thank you for your time, but also you're welcome to stay in the space. As we move on to the next.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What if the other person getting told? She's really not being known very well.
Good evening. Hello. Hi. All right. Get situated in the chair. I'll just explain the process. So the clerk is going to read off all the questions and the council can take that and just listen to your answers, your responses. You will have 60 seconds to answer each question. I will let you know if you get your time.
Okay.
And
All right, thank you.
thank you. Right, are you ready?
No, yes, it's now time to introduce yourself. You have a minute to do that, and then you'll, I believe, Council's already will have it after
So, hello, I've met a few of you in person and then on the various forums, but my name is Ashante Harris. I'm a resident of the city of Ypsilanti and a lifelong Washtenaw County resident. I'm excited about this opportunity to continue to commit to being part of city council and representing Ward 3. I believe my work experience and the information that I've shared will show areas that I could be a strength in my detailed, my financial background and really group organizing. And so I look forward to answering your questions, hopefully.
Thank you.
Question 1. The Love Stand was recently closed due to lack of permit and zoning issues. How do we ensure that city tools are not used to further inequity? And what are alternatives that we could do to support community needs?
Repeat that one more time so I get the full thing.
The Love Stand was recently closed due to lack of permit and zoning issues. How do we ensure that city tools are not used to further inequity? And what are alternatives that we could do to support community needs?
Mhm. So again, I've talked to a few different people and heard differing opinions on the situation, but I do think it would be a good idea if a Ward 3 representative had stepped in and could have helped with the process a little bit more, explaining what the situation is. I think sometimes on some of the Facebook forums, things go off in a certain direction and it's very hard to reel it back in. So I think as council members, we have to be very active and transparent into finding ways that we could share and keep people informed and actually help people so that they do continue to do these community initiatives that are very important in our community.
Thank you.
Question 2. Data can tell multiple stories based on the lens used and what is prioritized. What kind of information do you seek to help with decision making, and how do you determine what sources of data to center?
One more time so I can answer correctly.
Data can tell multiple stories based on the lens used and what is prioritized. What kind of information do you seek to help with decision making, and how do you determine what sources of data is to center?
Mhm. So data is really important at the work that I do at the Institute for Social Research. And it also shows that there's definitely ways that you can interpret it, data in different ways. I think most importantly, as going around and campaigning, is trying to get more data on what people want in our ward. There are some people who have never communicated with the city council member, but there's a wide range and some very good opinions. And it's very hard for just Ashante to say, this is my interpretation of the people that I spoke to. So it would be good if there was some type of regular, ongoing, every 5-10 years of trying to gather data from our communities, and that it's broken down into a way, so if we do it as a city group, that we have a way to pull out that Ward 3 information and be able to take actionable steps, because we don't really have that. Mhm.
Question 3. What does a better Ypsilanti look like to you, and what role would you play in getting there?
Definitely transparency, and I'll say throughout all my answers, probably in some way, stronger communication with the ward. And then being sure that our decisions are informed and that we share that information with our residents and our neighbors, including our financial decisions. I think that's really important, and that's going to be something that we have to continuously look at how we do that.
Thank you.
Question 4. How do you currently serve or plan on serving the people in the city of Ypsilanti?
Mhm. Finding a strong platform and way to get more input from all residents, not just a sub-unit of people, so that we can sometimes make difficult decisions, but it has to be sure that we're not leaving one group out. And so I would actively look at ways to try and gather that information and then identify what works and what doesn't work. And there has to be a mechanism for that. And I think evaluating things and decisions that we make are really important so that we have that data to back up our decisions.
Thank you.
Question 5. What is your approach to handling controversial and complicated issues?
Direct. I think, my background is in customer service and hospitality, and really follow through is very important. And I'm direct, immediate, because I think that the more time we delay addressing it, the situation changes, the stories change, and we have to be sure that we get on top of that. So I would definitely say I'm direct, and I believe that's the only way we can move forward and be true to our ward members.
Thank you.
Question 6. Not everyone agrees on everything, and that includes constituents in the various wards. How will you represent the diverse voices in Ward 3?
Talking to them and gathering that data. So there has to be a way that we can get a more wide approach for what people want in the city. I think campaigning made me realize how big and diverse like one ward can be within a city. And so we have to find some way of gathering that and working on it and having data behind us when there's difficult decisions. It's not going to make it perfect, but making informed decisions based on that will go a long way with building trust.
Thank you.
Question 7. Describe a time when your work was criticized. How did you respond?
I guess the thing is, if it was criticized, what was the reason it was criticized? And if there's an action that I can take to improve or better explain the decisions or change. I mean, sometimes there are things that just weren't correct and we have to look at it and make the adjustments that are needed. So I definitely value feedback and I would rather feedback came to me directly and be open to it. I would never want someone not to approach me and not want to have that conversation, as hard as it might be.
Thank you.
The city's high taxes are a barrier to residents and businesses. How would you propose to decrease this burden?
Definitely looking at how we can partner together with either the local businesses, Eastern Michigan University, federal grants that might be available. So I think it depends on the specific business that we're bringing here, but trying to actively work in bringing these grants and partnerships together. I know that the city staff does a lot of that and has acknowledged some of the grants that are out there that they've worked for things like the bridge improvement or repair, I guess I should say. So I think continuing to do that and just maybe whatever assistance we can give to help that and ease that burden and be as involved in as possible to help support them. I think that's necessary because we definitely need that tax base.
Thank you.
Question 9. How do you plan to involve residents in decision-making in Ypsilanti?
By talking to them and really holding regular meetings and getting their input. And then as that builds up, looking at ways that we can include them in things like the commissions or projects that hold a passion for them. And so I think the more you talk to people and learn about them, that when these opportunities become available, it's much easier to reach out and say, this great opportunity arose, I'd like to talk to you. And so you don't know that unless you're talking to people and learning what's important to them.
Thank you.
Question 10. What do you think is the most important skill of being a good council person?
I think commitment to the process, to the people, is very important. I want to just keep talking about that, but overall as commitment, if you make a commitment to do that, you know, the role of a council person is as a public servant and all that that involves, and you have to be committed to that.
Thank you.
Question 11. In your opinion, what is the most important issue facing our citizens?
I think it's a big issue around the development and future of the city of Ypsilanti. And that's housing, Water Street, new businesses that are coming in, new improvements to business, such as the medical, U of M medical over here. So I think development and the financial decisions that are built into that and how lasting they are is going to be very important. And there's a lot that's coming up. So I think that's the most important in involving people in it.
Thank you.
Question 12. Explain how you would advance racial equity in Ypsilanti.
I think that's again, communicating and letting people know of the opportunities that are available. There are so many grants that there are money that's not being used. And so providing and reaching out to organizations to say these are available, let's help and how can we help? Whether it's, small business loans or education systems to help people apply for those, or just information on the just general mechanics of running a business so that they are successful with their dreams. So providing access and information is going to be really important. And be active with it, not just passive, maybe having people have to reach out to you, providing opportunities that they can get that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for interviewing with us and being here this evening. You are welcome to stay.
All right. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Adams.
Good evening.
Welcome again.
Good evening.
So I'm just gonna go over what the process is gonna look like. The clerk is going to ask you all the questions so that council has the opportunity to just listen to the content of what you're telling us. You will have 60 seconds to answer each question. And you will start with 60 seconds to introduce yourself.
My name is Paul Adams. I've been a resident of the ward for about 10 years. And I look forward to this opportunity.
Thank you.
Question 1, the Love Stand was recently closed due to lack of permit and zoning issues. How do we ensure the city tools are not used to further inequity? And what are alternatives that we could do to support community needs?
If you could repeat the question one more time, please.
The Love Stand was recently closed due to lack of permit and zoning issues. How do we ensure that city tools are not used to further inequity? And what are alternatives that we could do to support community needs? And if you could speak up when you respond, please.
Yes, sir. Well, the Love Stand was closed because of zoning issues, and I believe that was the right thing to do. Especially during these times. It's a public stand, a lot of people come and visit it, and I believe it didn't do anything to the city itself. And I believe that we need to keep this practice. If these stands and these other things of this nature, if they are not in compliance, then we have to shut them down. I believe the last part of this question is what more can we do? I think we're on the right track. I don't see any other inconsistencies around in the area, so I think we're doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Question 2, data can tell multiple stories based on a lens used and what is prioritized. What kind of information do you seek to help with decision making, and how do you determine what sources of data to center?
Well, I guess that would depend at what's on the table. If you're looking at data covers so many different things. Data is something that is analyzed often, but again, data is data, and what we do here, I believe, when it comes to data is just data. It's not the real world. data can sometimes tell the truth, and it can sometimes not tell the truth. So I think data itself has to be analyzed thoroughly in order for it to be embraced.
Thank you.
Question 3, what does excuse me, does a better Ypsilanti look like to you, and what role would you play in getting there?
Well, first of all, a better Ypsilanti will have affordable housing. I think that's important these days, and I think a city of this magnitude to have affordable housing is a worldwide event. It's something that the world looks at, not just the city and not just the state, but the world. If we have affordable housing and we are covering the needs of all people here, I think we're doing a great job. Also, I believe we need safe streets. We need to make sure that we have a grip on crime. We haven't had a lot of problems. I think our police department does a wonderful job, but yes, we can do better. We can do better. And of course, I think that it's important for the city to embrace wellness and health. I mean, as residents, we need to live. Oh, sorry.
Question 4, how do you currently serve or plan on serving the people in the city of Ypsilanti?
Well, I have not sat on any type of boards or committees. I have, in fact, done decades of community service through my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. I've also done 2 years of AmeriCorps National Service. So I've been immersed in community service and public service. And I think that's important because I think we're going against, we've had so many years of all politicians, and I think now we need a mix of politicians and public servants. I think that's really important. And I think that's what city council is about. It's a position that's for the people and it listens to the people. That's really important.
Thank you.
Question 5, what is your approach to handling controversial and complicated issues?
Well, we come to the table. Obviously, controversial issues, you need to come to the table, and then we all need to put our hands on the table and say, hey, what do we need to do? Those aren't decisions that are made on an individual basis. We come to the table, we meet, we address the issue, and we vote. It's simple as that. Again, city council is just that, and we as a whole, we all work together with the other employees of the city. And I believe that that's the best way to go about things, is to bring it to the table and come together as a whole and figure it out.
Thank you.
Question 6, not everyone agrees on everything, and that includes constituents in the various wards. How will you represent the diverse voices in Ward 3?
Well, I will do my best, and I think that I will represent them with, number one, respect. I respect all the residents of my ward, not to mention the city of Ypsilanti. Ypsilanti is obviously a special city with a lot of diversity. And to know Ypsilanti is to live here, to know Ypsilanti is to go to school here. And I believe that I am a person that's built on honesty and integrity and respect. And I believe that those that know me understand that I am 100% for the people. I think that's important in this position.
Question 7, describe a time when your work was criticized. How did you respond?
Describe a time where my ward was criticized. Quite honestly, I don't recollect the ward being criticized.
Work being criticized.
Oh, my work.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said the ward. I apologize. Oh, name a time my work was criticized? Well, that's a tough one. I think that in some instances, I was criticized for not being a family man, for not having children, for not being married. And I was criticized in that regard. And I was looked over for a promotion because of that. And I was told that. And that was probably the only time I can remember being critical. Most of the jobs I have, I'm at a long time, so criticizes. I don't recollect being criticized, not in the workplace, at least.
Thank you.
Question 8. The city's high taxes are a barrier to residents and businesses. How would you propose to decrease this burden?
I think that starts with economic development. I think we need to believe in Ypsilanti and make it a draw, make it somewhere that people like to come and have a good time, or somewhat of a tourist attraction, if you will. I think when we generate money, when we bring people here to spend money and visit and stay in our hotels and come to our festivals, I think it will eventually balance. But again, it starts with bringing people here and having attractions for people to want to go to. I understand this is not a enormous city, but I still think it's very capable of doing such.
Thank you.
Question 9. How do you plan to involve residents in decision-making in Ypsilanti?
Oh, well, as residents, we want to get them involved, but it's important as residents that we have to attend city council meetings. It's important for us as residents to know what's going on, and the best way to do that is to attend the meetings, come in and be welcome. You have to know what's going on in order to be a part. So yes, I mean, we want to encourage more people to come to the city council meetings and be involved more. And again, it's our job as city council members to go out and say, hey, how are you? Are you aware of these issues? Are you aware of this? We have to be in line with the people, and we have to communicate with people. That's important for us.
Thank you.
Question 10. What do you think is the most important skill of being a good council person?
Well, it's funny because I think being a good council person is not necessarily all about skill. It's about experience. It's about wisdom. It's about what you've been through. Each council member has their own story. Each council member has taken a different path of employment. I have a very diverse path of employment, and I haven't worked in the political sector, but that passion is still there from undergrad in college. So skills in this area, in terms of note keeping, being organized, being punctual, those are skills. Note taking, being punctual, being organized, and being a great speaker. But being a council person is about what you've been through.
Thank you.
Question 11. In your opinion, what is the most important issue facing our citizens?
The most important issue facing our citizens, well, right now, I mean, obviously, post-pandemic, would have to be affordable housing and making sure people are off the street. We want to be able to control our homeless population here. We want to be able to get them in housing and things like that. We want to, we want to make sure that we set an example for the remainder of the state. Again, we are a small jurisdiction, but I believe that we have all of the abilities that big cities have.
Thank you.
Question 12, explain how you would advance racial equity in Ypsilanti.
And that is so important, especially these days. I mean, my goodness, so many things are going on, but again, I think that looking at the diversity of this city council and looking at the diversity in the city period, I think we're on the right track. I think we've already jumped over that stepping stone that where we start. So now we're starting. We have diversity here, in the public arena. And now what we need to do is we start, thinking about things that can bring all races and all people together. Like when you think of economic, you want to think of things that families do. We want to build and create things that everybody wants to come to, and everybody's like, oh, hi, how you doing? Hi. No matter what the color, no matter what gender, no matter who you like to date.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Adams,
Thank you.
for coming into the interview with us.
Thank
You are welcome to stay and listen to the last interview. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, member fellows. As you're getting prepared for the interview, I'm just gonna go over what the process is going to look like. So the clerk is gonna read all of the questions so that council has an opportunity to listen thoroughly to your responses. You will have 60 seconds to answer each question, and we will start with a 60-second introduction.
All right.
Now is the time to introduce yourself.
Great. Hi, council. My name is Amber Fellows. I'm a 20-year resident of Ypsilanti. A lot of you know me a little bit, so I'll keep
Speak up louder.
sure. My name is Amber Fellows. I'm a 20-year resident of Ypsilanti. A lot of you do know me. I've been a 3-time city official on pretty engaged commissions here in Ypsilanti. And I recently ran for mayor of Ypsilanti. So there's my short introduction.
Thank you.
Question 1, the Love Stand was recently closed due to lack of permit and zoning issues. How do we ensure that city tools are not used to further inequity? And what are alternatives that we could do to support community needs?
That's a good question. When the pandemic began, we had, as a community, needed to adapt to the changing conditions. We had deep critical community needs, and one of that was food scarcity. So motivated individuals in our wonderful community here in Ypsilanti started sidewalk pantries like the Love Stand to meet those critical needs. And then since then, from my observation, it seems like those resources really expanded beyond just being something that was stewarded by an individual into a full mutual aid effort where people both brought things to the Love Stand and used the resources there. And so, if anything, the distress that I saw, the community upset around the Love Stand indicated to me that there is a deep yearning for these mutual aid efforts. And that we should do what we can to support them. So if there's something going wrong, that there's a code violation, that we would come in to tell them how we could support them to make sure it's right.
Thank you.
Question 2. Data can tell multiple stories based on the lens used and what is prioritized. What kind of information do you seek to help with decision making? And how do you determine what sources of data to center?
So I come from an understanding that we are facing interlocking existential threats right now, multiple of them, and that in order for us to survive and get through these times, that we depend on one another. And so I am interested in seeing power redistributed in the community where we are drawing in more people, specifically broadening decision-making power away from City Hall so that more people can weigh in on the critical decisions in our community here. And so my perspective really is of broadening community power, of drawing it down. Specifically in our most important decisions in Ypsilanti, we can put them to citywide vote. So we can have much more than a 7-member body decide for our important issues.
Thank you.
Question 3. What does a better Ypsilanti look like to you, and what role would you play in getting there?
Yeah, a better Ypsilanti would be one where, you know, everybody has the opportunity for freedom of movement, to self-determine, and to not be worried about their landlord, their boss, or their government impeding on their safety or their ability to have opportunity. So I would like to see, you know, as far as the city government goes, move more towards relaxing the ways that we gatekeep resources, move more towards bringing in more people in decision-making and becoming more transparent about our processes that are very bureaucratic and hard to understand. So, you know, I come from a liberatory politics, and I do think that we could do much better here in our city government to offer that to more people.
Thank you.
4. How do you currently serve or plan on serving the people in the city of Ypsilanti?
Yeah, so I've been involved in my career, my workplace. I've been in the service sector for the last 20 years. I worked for Planned Parenthood, Ozone House, Avalon Housing, Catholic Social Services. And beyond that, I've been doing organizing work in Ypsilanti since about 2011 and very seriously since about 2016. And so I work alongside my community here, different advocates, work alongside Rising for Economic Democracy in Ypsilanti, Defend Affordable Ypsi. I support my communities that when individuals do other efforts, and yeah, I'm excited to continue to do that. I also like to throw events, so I'm a musician, I throw events too.
Thank you.
Question 5. What is your approach to handling controversial and complicated issues?
Yeah, this is a good question. I tend to try to understand like who the players that are involved, and yeah, I think that kind of informs like what the controversy might be. Is it controversy at City Hall, and who are the players involved? And then I go to people that I trust to understand what everybody else thinks about this controversy. I think that what makes us strong in our ability to understand the world is kind of like a dialectics where we're looking at things from multiple angles and getting as many perspectives as possible.
Question 6. Not everyone agrees on everything, and that includes constituents in the various boards. How will you represent the diverse voices in Board 3?
Yeah, like I kind of said, I am a little bit critical of representational government. I do think we might start to ask if this is the best version of what we have, and we can start moving towards bringing in more people so that it isn't dependent on me to try to represent a vast array of experiences and perspectives and the multitude that everyone contains in their person. So yeah, I think the way it is now, what we try to do is talk to many people, talk to people outside of our social circles. I think that's all good and well, but I think we can also start doing things like deep surveying, city official surveying, and also putting more things on the ballot so people have more say.
Thank you.
Question 7, describe a time when your work was criticized. How did you respond?
Yeah, my work is criticized all the time. I think it's a matter of looking at who or where the criticism is coming from. So is the criticism coming from landlord monopoly or a person in power? Then I'm probably doing my job correctly. But if the criticism is coming from, peers that are not in political power or marginalized folks, then yes, this is something that I think is important for any person that wants to be in a city role, but just being a good person in our community too. We should be listening to criticism that's legitimate and that would help us grow as individuals.
Thank you.
Question 8, the city's high taxes are a barrier to residents and businesses. How would you propose to decrease this burden?
I'm against the gentrification model of growing a tax base. I do think our city government is not unlike most city governments where that's been the strategy for most of the time. But I do also know that the taxes here are very high and that people would love to see those taxes lessened. How I see that could happen is by looking at who's being opportunistic within our community and to make sure that those opportunists that are kind of gatekeeping resources and creating scarcity are actually contributing to the tax base. So for example, landlords that are holding vacant business fronts or property owners that are holding vacant residences. We can enact a vacancy tax that would increase both market competition. It would increase availability of both residential homes and business fronts, and would also create growth here.
Question 9, how do you plan to involve residents in decision-making in Ypsilanti?
Yeah, I'll keep it short because I said a bunch of times. I think we should make sure that people have opportunity to actually literally vote on the things that affect them. So, however this goes tonight, I hope we do seriously consider putting more things on the ballot, because that would be doing that in real time instead of just some sort of speaking to, somehow being able to represent people effectively without actually doing something that's actually systemic change. So yeah, and if I were on council, then I would do everything I could to make sure those really big decisions were brought to community-wide vote.
Question 10, what do you think is the most important skill of being a good council person?
To know that you are not a savior. So you cannot save a community. You can work alongside, you can collaborate, you can advocate, but we are not saving people here. We're trying to better understand each other, create trust, create community. So yeah, and understanding that we have biases, and these biases kind of go into our decision making. And that's why we ought to be critical of the type of decision making that we've done so far, which has been very conservative and like pushing of status quo models, like a 7-member body council that makes every decision. So, yeah, understand your bias, make sure that you're not leaning into saviorism.
Question 11. In your opinion, what is the most important issue facing our citizens?
Landlord monopolies. 70% of the community in Ypsilanti are renters. It's the highest in the state of Michigan. And we don't have a regulatory body that to push back. So basically, the 2 or 3 landlords are the de facto regulators of rent in the community here. And that means they control the destinies of most of the residents. And so, I do think it's one of the highest imperatives of council to actually work towards repealing the statewide ban on rent control, as well as putting in policies in place to help residents so that there's any accountability of those rental monopolies. And, I would do everything I can to do that. There are many, many issues that residents face, but a lot of them are intersecting because the most marginalized communities are all overrepresented in our landlord market. The disabled people, Black residents, Indigenous residents, queer, trans residents, all overrepresented.
Question 12. Explain how you would advance racial equity in Ypsilanti.
I am interested in a reparations commission to begin at least the conversation, if not the actual actions, to repair for past systemic harm, systemic racism. Yeah, I think there is a lot of talk around equity, which, I think is good that we're really realizing that, there has to be certain accommodations made or things change in certain institutions so that people have a truer equity. But from a liberatory standpoint, we really ought to actually start deconstructing those systems. So white supremacy and ableism and cis heteropatriarchy and these systems in place that make it so that the built world is made for, white, straight, cis men that have land and money. And so we actually create a world where that's not what's centered.
Thank you so much for your time and coming in to interview with us. You were the last interview. We are going to wrap up this portion. Of course, you're welcome to stay in the meeting. And then Clerk Kalanga, can you reiterate the next thing with this one?
So currently, the only thing for this meeting specifically was for the interviews. Council cannot vote on a replacement until that seat is vacated. So once that seat vacates, council will have the opportunity to vote.
Thank you. So you all right with taking like a 5-minute recess? So I can get the resolutions out and you can regroup before we start. All right, so we'll take 5 minutes. Thank you.
Are public comments right when they come in?
Yeah, close time will be right when we come back. Thank you. Thank you.
Andrew?
You guys are very. Just give us one more.
home, it's not important to me. She's still doing a lot of work on behalf of people who have really big issues here. So I think that we really need to support her for this position.
Next, we have Yvonne Cudney. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for this opportunity to talk. My name is Yvonne Cudney. I'm a resident of Ward 3. I'd like to express my support for appointing Evan Sweet to fill the soon to be vacated city council seat of Annie Somerville. Evan and I live in the same neighborhood on the same block in the Lindsay Garden subdivision. Evan was one of the first people I met when I bought my house 7 years ago. He's welcoming and engaged in the neighborhood. Every year he organizes some type of neighborhood event to give us all the opportunity to meet new neighbors and stay in touch with the old. He's invited local electeds to many of our events, giving us the opportunity to meet them and discuss our concerns. Evan also created our neighborhood Facebook page, wherein he keeps us up to date about decisions being made at city council and events and activities that affect the neighborhood. He always solicits the neighborhood's input and feedback. Evan served on the Ypsilanti Senior Center's board of directors with me and helped to transition the senior center from a city program to an independent 501c3. His connections to the city helped us to more easily achieve our nonprofit status and provide ongoing services during the first year of the pandemic. Even though he's no longer on the board, he continues to seek out and forward new funding opportunities to us so that the Ypsi Senior Center can continue to offer older adults a welcoming environment where they can continue to learn, engage in fitness and healthy living, as well as counteract the social isolation that is so prevalent among older adults today. As a housing advocate, I appreciate Evan's commitment to increasing housing stock within the city, as well as advocating for increasing the income limits for property tax exemptions. With the severe shortage of housing stock in Washington County, it is imperative that the city do what is necessary to help low-income people remain in their homes and that those homes remain or be made safe to reside in, while simultaneously increasing housing stock so that others may simply have somewhere to live here in Washington County. Evan's leadership skills, exemplified by his neighborhood engagement, will be an asset to City Council. I support his goals and believe he will make Ypsilanti a better place to live for everyone. I know that he will continue to solicit the input of Ypsi residents and will communicate their desires to City Council, as well as inform us of the issues before Council and the resulting decisions. I wholeheartedly support Evan Sweet's appointment to Ypsilanti City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Dylan Navarre.
Good evening, council. My name is Dylan Navarre, and I'm the current chair of the city's Parks and Rec Commission. I'm here tonight in support of Evan Sweet for the Ward 3 Open City Council position. While I do not live in Ward 3 personally, I do live in the city and have worked closely with Evan for the past 4 years on the Parks and Rec Commission. Evan was the chair of the commission when I started on it and has continued to support the Parks and Rec Commission, even after accepting the short-term position with City Council. During my time serving with Evan and post that, he's not only been a great resource, guide, and steward for myself personally, but he's, I believe, all those things for the city of Ypsilanti as well. In my time serving with Evan, I've seen his passion and commitment to our city and its citizens up close and personal. His time on that commission, I believe, has allowed him to have a great understanding of the operation of the city itself and this governing body. I have witnessed firsthand how his time serving has allowed him to develop good and solid working relationships with the city staff across multiple departments, which will undoubtedly assist him if you select him to fill this open position. I believe that one of Evan's best achievements during his time leading the Parks Commission is the annual Fall River Day event, which he helped create, spearhead, and lead. The planning, organizing, and running of that event, along with his other experience, has brought him to have a strong connection with individuals, groups, and multiple different organizations, both in our city and in our county. I believe his time serving our city in multiple different capacities is a great insight. He has a great insight into how he would fill this, is a great insight into how he would fill this position. His vision and priorities that he has communicated in his application for this position line up with the values that I have seen firsthand from him personally, and what lines up with what I feel many citizens in the city are looking for as well. I appreciate the time to be able to speak and support Evan. I believe that council will make a wise and forthright decision to fill this open city council position. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, and forgive me if I say it incorrectly, Dharma Travis. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Sharma Travis. I'm a resident of Ypsilanti. I live in the same neighborhood that Evan lives in and there's. I've lived here for 45 years. I've been a substitute teacher and worked in the school system. I have 12 children. They all grew up there. And in the years that I've lived in the neighborhood we've in, it's had its ups and downs. Once Evan moved in there, things changed. And I'm doing this from a personal level because of what I've been seeing. He got everybody motivated to do things. When people didn't want to do things, he was there to listen. He listened to what was going on. He decided to work with everybody there. He didn't just isolate anybody. He worked with everybody. Facebook page, everything you've heard before was what I observed. And because I've been in that neighborhood a lot of years, I've lived in that, I've been a renter here and I own a home. And in all this time, I haven't been around someone like Evan who supported everybody. He would try to find out how you were doing. He would want to know how things are going. He's the only person seriously that I knew when the council meetings were, and I'm ashamed to never come. But I mean, he let us know what was going on in the neighborhood, in the area. That means a lot to me. I am an insulating person, and it means a lot to me that somebody cares enough and to want to make this a better place to live. And I have really appreciated. I love working in the schools here. I love working with the kids in the and I know good when I see it. And I'm just very appreciative of Evan, and I want to support him in this council. And this council. And I'm not as eloquent, but thank you for listening.
Thank you. Amber Fellow?
Yeah, Amber Fellows. Yeah, I thought there would be time to do a closing statement, so I might do that here, but I just also want to mention, I see that the Renovare development for 220 North Park is on the agenda. I saw or heard that there's going to be some changes and that it might actually not be a big deal. It might just be a technical issue with a PUD or something, but just want to say if it's is a situation where they're changing the actual number of affordable units down from 23, that would be an issue because it would be against the community benefits agreement. So I just want to make sure that that's not what's happening, that it's the same amount of units that are dedicated to the affordable side. And also want to mention, I did chair that commission and I did vigorously negotiate for those tangible benefits that will go on for decades from now. I know that many on this council were supportive of that decision, which I'm really glad for, but I hope you also recognize that as someone that chaired and did those really difficult negotiations, that it was myself and my colleagues that secured those benefits. So that should count for something. I do also want to say that to appoint me would be to both value our democratic process and to value having a city council made up of diverse perspectives, strategies, and strengths. Any other decision would be more in line with more indication of a reinforcement and a vigorous defense of the status quo. And yeah, to appoint me would be to indicate that you're committed to fighting our existential threats of environmental catastrophe, of gentrification, systemic violence. Yeah, and so I just want you to, I'm not trying to be dramatic, but that's just the state of the world right now. So, you know, I want to actually not pretend that that isn't reality. I want to live in reality. And so I want to act as if these things are threatening our existence, because it is. And so I hope you deeply consider these things. And, you know, Evan, it has support, sounds like, and that's great, but I would say that Evan also had the opportunity to run in Ward 3 and did choose not to do that. And so that's something to consider as well. The folks that did run races put the effort, put the time to try to get community support. And our campaign did do very well in Ward 3 in particular. We did get the most votes, more than Ashanti Harris. We also got more votes in Nicole Brown's campaign after straight ticket votes are taken away. So in Ward 3, we've had a lot of support and it's demonstrated all the time. So thank you.
Thank you. First Blackford. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. My name is Chris Blackford. I am also here to speak in support of Mr. Sweet, Mr. Evan Sweet, for the upcoming vacant seat on city council. I have not personally worked with Evan Sweet. I have not had the pleasure, but I am here to speak on behalf of him as a character witness. I've known Evan for approximately 3 years now. In that time, Evan has not only been a great neighbor, but has become a true leader. My wife and I have lived in this neighborhood of Lindsay Gardens for 6 years now. After we graduated EMU, we decided to buy a house in this community because we believe in this community. Several of you on the board, we voted for. And we believe Mr. Sweet would be a great fit. In our neighborhood, we do not have an HOA. We do not have a board looking out for our residents. And right now we live in a time where most of us no longer borrow the occasional cup of sugar. We no longer catch up with a neighbor down the street. And we are surprised, at least I am, when I receive a wave or a good morning walking down the street. Well, most of us, we met Evan in 2020. That was a time while most of us were locked away in our houses. And Mr. Sweet saw the need for communication. He took charge. He is the source of our information when it comes to events happening in the city, and he is the individual we turn to when we need assistance. In a multi-generational community with vastly different backgrounds and political beliefs, Mr. Sweet has brought us together on multiple occasions. As you've heard, he throws block parties. The occasional summer evening, we'll get together where we meet and we converse, and it's truly been astounding how that's changed our neighborhood. I am positive that all of your candidates are qualified for this position. However, as I am here as a witness to his personal character, I can speak on behalf of his empathy, his complete selflessness, and his ability to care and work with those that may not share his personal beliefs. We as a community would be remiss to lose this opportunity. And we need people like Mr. Sweet on this council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that did not sign up that would like to address council? We will have 3 minutes. Yes, please.
Yes. I don't care how many votes anybody got in Ward 3. It's evident that somebody in Ward 3 voted for Nicole Brown because she is the mayor. Now, I'm gonna close that case. Ed Kruniznov made a historical move in the city of Ypsilanti when he made Amy Walker the first female chief who served diligently and successfully until she went to another job. I need to be impressed, see. I need to be impressed. We talked about, last time we talked about people being on the selection committee for the police chief. And again, I said, I need to be impressed. And I have not been impressed anymore by Annette Coppett as a police officer serving the city of Ypsilanti for 28 years that I have known her. And I'm asking council and the city management, we need a police representative on that selection panel. And that knows what the community needs as a police chief. She's been out there for 28 years. And that has rapport with the community. And that is a great detective for the city of Ypsilanti all by herself sometimes. And I think she would be a prime person to sit on a selection committee for a police chief. And I said that, and I'm gonna say this, I want the city of Ypsilanti to keep on making history. Make Annette Coppet the first female. You done had plenty of males sitting on them selections. I used to sit there myself. Make Annette Coppet the first female that has ever sit on a selection committee for a police chief in the city of Ypsilanti. And I guarantee you, you'll be impressed. I'm through with y'all the next time.
Is there anyone else in the audience? I see, oh, Brian here is it? Hey, hello. Hello. Good evening.
Hey everyone, my name is Brian. Congratulations to the new council members, to the new mayor. It's good to see y'all up here. It's really good to see you guys up here. I did the thing where I didn't write any notes, but I do support you putting Amber Fellows into the position of Ward 3 council member. I do really like to hear all the support for Evan. It's cool to hear, and it sounds like Evan's doing some really cool stuff in the neighborhood, and I think we need that. I kind of want to do that in my neighborhood. He's not looking at me, but I actually think it's really cool. I think we should also do need to acknowledge, and at least 5 of you up here know that Amber has done more for the political workings of this city than all the other candidates combined, probably many times over. No offense to Mr. Sweet. I think what you're doing in the neighborhood is awesome, legitimately, but Amber has been part of Defend Affordable Ypsi, What's Left Ypsi, Rising for Economic Democracy in Ypsi, the Human Relations Commission, chaired it, the CBO committee, the Housing Affordability and Accessibility Subcommittee, and just does so much for this community. So the other thing, I think that just thinking about the politics of the city and looking at our process, this process is whack. It's shit, and we should change it because people should get the chance to vote, and we have a lot of people who are running uncontested or getting appointed by people who are appointed, and it's not democratic. If you're interested in the city residents being represented, there is a wide swath of people on the left who have not really been represented historically, and Amber is someone who could do that. Yeah, I think that's what I want to say. Also regarding the CBO stuff, I think Renovari and the Clark Road stuff is on there. It'd be cool if, like, I'm interested in knowing what is going on. I've been super busy, so I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but feel free to reach out to Reddy. Reddy, has done some stuff for the CBO and probably would appreciate knowing about things like that. Yeah, it'd be cool, and just in general, like, it'd be cool if, like, the grassroots orgs and people who do a lot for the city got some acknowledgement when it comes up here.
Thank you.
So, Happy New Year.
Would anyone else like to give us counsel? Good evening.
Good evening. There was a great question tonight. What skills would you need?
Talk up so we can hear you back here.
What skills would you need to be in this position? And just listening to what our community members have said about Evan tells me that he has some real strong skills that he can bring to the 6 of you who would then be 7 of you. I commend him for that. Folks are not going to just talk without someone walking that walk. And from what I've seen, in the short time that he served, city council, I too can want to stand behind what have been said this evening. And so I support Mr. Sweet for the appointment on council. The other thing that I want to talk about is Ferris. Hamilton and Ferris going to East Ainsworth and Ferris. Very, very dangerous area for us to still have parking in that area. Councilperson Tucson and Councilperson King, you both live in the Ainsworth Circle area, and I don't know about you, but just about a week and a half ago, someone almost ran into us head on. There's some really tall hedges at the neighbor's home. You cannot see the stop sign coming out from East Ainsworth. And then I don't know that people understand the right of way. And with cars parked on the right-hand side on Ferris between Hamilton and East Ainsworth, it makes it very, very dangerous because the area cannot accommodate two cars at the same time. So if there's no courtesy, folks are trying to figure out who stops when. And so it's very, very dangerous. We've seen that over the years. And so I'm asking council if you would please, study that area. I don't know if you guys have experienced any issues there, but we have more than once, but quite recently, we could have been casualties. And so I'm just asking council to consider what's going on in that short little space. I don't think parking should happen there. It's just too dangerous. Thank you.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Valerie Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address the council? Is there anyone online?
There's one individual online, Peter Church with their hand raised. I'll allow him to speak now.
Hello, City Council. Peter.
Yes, we can hear you.
Ward 2. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'd like to start off tonight with some late breaking news. Eastern Michigan University football has just won their first bowl game since 1987. And I know there's some EMU grads out there on the council, and I just want to say what a great victory, and makes our city look great, and we should all be proud. And I hope that maybe a resolution might be forthcoming, recognizing Coach Crichton and the tremendous EMU Eagles football team of 2022. My next topic is a broader topic related to democracy in Ypsilanti, and in specific, the Michigan Open Meetings Act, and also the Ypsilanti FOIA process. Obviously, this is a big topic, but to hit the high points, I would like to see a resolution that would specify that city council members have to use city email for all business related to the city. I saw that our new mayor has, in an effort, I'm sure, to reach out to more people, included both her city council email and another email. And while the Michigan Supreme Court has just this year ruled that private email accounts can be subject to FOIA, I think it would be much better all around if all city council members use their city council official city email for all business related to the city, and that server be secured and made available for FOIA request. Have a little bit of criticism for John Barr. When your former partner, the late Mr. Onhut, passed away, you did not update the city website for FOIA. And I know that several FOIA requests bounced off his email because he's no longer with us. The other aspect is the agenda. And again, these are not necessarily criticisms, but suggestions. Items appear on the agenda seemingly from out of nowhere. They obviously had a lot of background to them, a lot of discussion or planning related to them, but none of that's ever presented to the public. So one way to do that would be to, instead of just having the agenda item, saying what's behind it, why we're proposing it. Just some more background for people. I think we've heard tonight from a lot of people how much they appreciate communication. And I just want to point out that very often that communication is only one way. Well, I appreciate updates from the police department that they've been put up. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else online for that?
There is a bill noting, I apologize, noting, I'll allow them to speak now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Good evening.
Yes, we can hear you. Mr. Novak? Mr. Nolting?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, so I'm speaking to the memo that Sally and John Lusk sent to all of you, and she requested that that be read to you in this meeting. Has that happened?
Not yet, once we get through all the comments.
Okay, well, I want to support her comment, and maybe I'll just read the last 4 points of it in the hopes that the entire statement will be read. The Lusk want the plan to pave Clark Road passed by the council, and then that plan should not be rescinded by the council. This has to do with the resolution 2022-086. Second, the developer should be required to forward a plan to the County Road Commission that includes paving to the previously approved end of the road. Third, this paving would be implemented when the rest of the road is paved. And fourth, the cul-de-sac and drainage would be retained on the developer's land, and in the context, in other words, not taken from the property of the Lusks, which had been proposed. So I support strongly this memo from Sally and John Lusk.
Thank you. Are there any further things?
Other attendees have their hands raised, so I will read. Early in the fall, we made contact with the County Road Commission, CRC, to try to learn about the timing and status of paving of Park Road. Subsequently, we received a large packet of materials that contain the developer's plans for the paving of Park Road. That included carving a cul-de-sac out of the front yards of our property and neighbors across the road. Further, the plans called for using a swath of our land for the runoff of the drainage from the paved road, which is considerable because of the sloping grade. No one had contacted us or the neighbors about the takeover of our property. The area where the plan to put the drain on our property would prevent our selling it as a buildable lot on the river. Again, no one contacted us about this. We spoke with the CRC representative and expressed our objection to the taking over the land from us for the cul-de-sac and drainage. He indicated that a cul-de-sac is best practices for a dead-end road. So they expect to build Clark Road that way. The developer's representative called to discuss our concerns and agreed to work on a plan not place the cul-de-sac and drainage on our land. After we learned about the resolution on the city council agenda to eliminate the paving of Clark Road to the official end of the road, we contacted the CRC representative who informed us that the developer had submitted revised plans where they would place the cul-de-sac and drainage to the river on their land, but would not pave the remainder of Clark Road. So now that the developer no longer plans to take our land for the road and the drainage ditch and place the cul-de-sac and the drainage on their land, they now propose to no longer pave the remainder of Clark Road. Again, we were not contacted or notified about the proposed change in the plans for the paving of Clark Road. We are not informed about the resolution on tonight's agenda, learning from friends who saw the council agenda and let us know. We expected the city would provide better communication to us as city residents and contiguous landowners affected by this resolution. We believe that one, the plan to pave Clark Road passed by the council should not be rescinded by council. Two, the developer should be required to forward a plan to the CRC that includes the paving to the previously approved end of the road. Three, the paving would be implemented when the rest of the road is paved. And four, the cul-de-sac and drainage would be retained on the developer's land.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other hands, virtually or in chambers, we will close public comment. So thank you all, and we will move to our first ordinance and Councilmember Jason, and you have that.
So resolved by, resolution number 2022-281. Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas the city of Ypsilanti recognizes that mobile health clinics serve an important role in the healthcare system, providing care to some of the most vulnerable populations. And whereas the city of Ypsilanti recognizes that this action creates access to direct medical care, screening and protective measures that may lead to a more stable and healthier workforce, as well as the prevention of long-term illnesses, hospitalization, or death. And whereas the city of Ypsilanti recognizes that protecting our citizens, local employees, entrepreneurs, and service providers from social and physical health difficulties fully addresses the broader community's economic conditions. And now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council through the zoning text amendment provision in the zoning ordinance to allow for temporary mobile health care establishments in the center, parks, GCMC, HHS, and PND zoning districts. This zoning text amendment applies to Article 3, Development Procedures and Administration, Division 2, Permits, Subdivisions 3, Temporary Use Permits, Section 122 to 335 requirements. So I think removed.
Or
Supported. Good evening.
good evening, City Council. It's good to be with all of you. I'm here to introduce Holly Andrews, the new city planner. Holly's been with us about a month or so now, so picking it up really quickly and very helpful to the department. We're really glad to have her. And she wrote the case for you, and we'll give you the staff report.
Thank you.
Everybody, it's an honor to be here with you all. Exciting night. So yes, I am here on behalf to do the reading for the zoning text amendment to include temporary mobile healthcare establishments in the city ordinance. The summary and background, there is currently no known provision in the zoning ordinance to allow for mobile healthcare establishments. This zoning text amendment applies to Article 3, Development Procedures and Administration, Division 2, Permits, Subdivision 3, Temporary Use Permits, Section 122-335 requirements. As the way people receive healthcare evolves with new technology offerings, we have been approached about permitting a new type of use not previously defined in the zoning ordinance. The closest literalization we must consider is the temporary mobile food concession definition, which is how this language was modeled. The proposed zoning districts are predominantly considered walkable urban districts, with the notable exception of health and human services. And this exception is because healthcare uses are primarily provided in HHS and would be a good fit for this new type of accessory and temporary use. The recommended action enacts the text amendment to allow for temporary mobile healthcare establishments in the center, parks, general corridor, neighborhood corridor, health and human services, and production, manufacturing, and distribution zoning districts. Our findings. Number one, the amendment is consistent with the guiding values of our master plan. Diversity is our strength. Ypsilanti is sustainable and a great place to do business, especially green and creative. Number two, the amendment is consistent with the description and purpose of the district. Do you guys have this? It's included in your packet if you want to follow along. And to that, I will say the proposed districts are appropriate for improving access to medical care by creating a location that is tailored to a broad range of populations and reduces a whole host of barriers to access that include time away from work or the need for confidentiality, as well as a lack of transportation, connection, or mobility. Number three, the proposed amendment is consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance. The proposed amendment will permit a temporary use that provides equitable access to a range of medical services and ensures dignity and comfort for the patient community. The mobile medical service creates a place that is safe to approach in a familiar, confidential, and reachable setting. And the temporary mobile healthcare establishment protects the rights of all patients to access preventive care that promotes a quality of life that may be threatened without access to safe, reachable services. Number 4, the proposed amendment will enhance the functionality and character of the future development of the city. Temporary mobile medical service establishments target underserved areas and may be accessed via alternative modes of travel that include walking, biking, and public transit. And further, the character of future development may be shaped and positively impacted by the delivery of healthcare services in a more community-focused and locally tailored way. Number 5, the proposed amendment will enhance the environmental sustainability of the city and not negatively affect its natural features. Staff anticipates that this amendment will protect and preserve the natural features or environmental sustainability of the city by reducing the need for transportation to centralized medical institutions. Number 6, the proposed amendment will protect the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. Staff maintains that the amendment promises to assure comprehensive access, healthcare, and medical services among all of Ypsilanti's diverse communities equitably. The mobile healthcare establishment amendment may increase public education concerning best health practices by bringing these services to places that are inherently more welcoming or easy to reach for a wider range of communities. This action is also an innovative solution to reduce barriers to medical care and preventive health care services, such as time away from work or a small business, and it may support a healthier workforce across the board. Number 7, the proposed amendment will address a community need and economic condition. This amendment and action may improve the local economy by preventing illness or health issues through early detection and direct care among communities that have employment and transportation barriers to centralized medical locations. And finally, the proposed amendment will not result in the creation of significant nonconformities.
We'll take questions from council and then we'll open the public hearing. Councilmember Somerville? Okay.
I have a question about the definition. So hygiene is considered like a health issue, so if someone wanted to have a mobile shower set up for folks who don't have access to showers, would that fall into the same definition?
I don't believe so. These are more, if you think about like food trucks, mobile food concessions. Here are some examples, if this might give you an idea. COVID-19 mobile testing, blood mobiles, health outreach. So certainly, I think there is something that we can connect to that need. But I think that there would be a little bit more involved. But mobile dental, mobile audiology, mobile mammography, mobile ophthalmology, telemedicine, laboratory work, mobile veterinary, simulation labs. Those are some examples of the type of technology that could, diabetes screening and testing, the things that neighborhoods need to get to currently to a centralized medical facility. It's hard to leave work or it's hard to get transportation. This would bring it to them.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Okay, so I guess so it seems like it's pretty broad. So I guess I'm just wondering why a mobile shower that is in like it would be in a mobile truck similar to like a mobile dog or cat groomer. So I'm just wondering but it would be specifically serving humans who don't have access to showers.
Sure. So I think maybe the better way to answer that is with the proper application and going through all of the checklists for getting the permit. If it matches them, absolutely. It's not something that I think we would say no to. It just would have I think it's a 1 year, just like the food trucks are, it's good for 1 year. You have to present a plan. It has to be okayed by, things like the health department and our building department. We want to make sure that they wouldn't be taking up parking spaces for our small businesses, things like that. But where necessary, a sketch plan would be required, and certainly if that was helpful, and yes, I agree with you about hygiene and bringing it to people is a good thing, so.
Additional questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
To councilperson Somerville's point, this covers a range of structures and facilities. I'm curious about the 365-day limit. Is that intended to be one position for that amount of time, or is this a permitted so that those you use the example of food trucks, so that they can move around and they would have to be approved for each of those sites?
So each of the, just as a food truck has to get a permit to operate, it would be similar. But annually, the facility and the licensing and everything would have to go through the building department to, and I would imagine the state and the health department, the things, whatever the appropriate licensing, that would be checked annually. Is that correct?
And this could go from something the size of a food truck to manufactured housing, mobile home being parked in a certain single space for 365 days.
So again, so there are certain instances within this, if it's requested by the planning commission or city council or the building department, is a plan, a sketch plan would have to be presented, because we would want to make sure that parking spaces weren't displaced, that it was an appropriate use of that area, that it wasn't obstructing traffic or impeding on the neighborhood or that particular zoning district. All of that would have to go through the proper channels. So in terms of setting up in one place, it would have to be approved.
And the last point, there was an incident in the township for a COVID testing facility in which this doesn't cover the unit itself. And where is that going to be covered? Is that covered in the county health code? Is that covered, what statute controls that? Because a lot of the argument against having that where it was based on other things. So I'm just trying to figure out, with the shower or whatever, anything else, who controls what's in the unit? I mean, this is about placement of that unit, but what is that still with the building department, or is that like the food trucks, they have to deal with the health department in terms of being certified for that?
Absolutely. It would have to go through strict licensing. It would go through the health department. It would, every aspect, whether it's the actual vehicle itself to, the appropriate fire suppressant, fire extinguishers, of course, the planning department, planning commission, they are involved in making sure that it's put in the appropriate place. And again, it would be a strict licensing. This is something that would go through University of Michigan, or this is not something that would be set loose in the community. This is an incredibly calibrated and controlled effort to bring healthcare out to different communities where it's needed.
Thank you. Additional questions from council? Councilor Beeson.
Hi, good to meet you again. So I'm wondering I guess this would probably go into the plan in terms of thinking about whether these mobile units have these specific locations where people would drop in. Like if they're like, oh, on Wednesdays, we are here and things like that. That would be part of the plan that they would put forward in terms of where they would be.
Absolutely, and just like food trucks are in charge of their promoting where they're going to be, it would be similar, right? But in my mind, the goal of this is bringing healthcare to different communities to remove some of those barriers. So they'll work with community leaders and they'll work with the different schools, places of work. This would be something that they would want to be successful. The applicant is is somebody from, I believe, the University of Michigan, and they are eager to get this going because they want to bring healthcare to people that are just not able to get what they need currently, because they do have several barriers, several of them. And I think probably the biggest one in my mind is being able to take time off from work or leave work when they could be parked in a PMD zoning district and somebody can come out for their break. But this would be something that would be, worked with the community and community leaders. They are very interested in this being popular and well used.
Thank you. I think it's, I'm really interested in this some more, especially knowing that we live in an area that has lower life expectancy rates as well as higher maternal health issues. So health is such an important area for us here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions from council? All right. So we will now open the public hearing. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address council on this topic, please raise your hand. All right, please.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Beachy, architect. I am the applicant on behalf of my client. Everything that Holly mentioned was accurate and true. I think she handled it great. Regarding the licensing of the healthcare unit, there are strict guidelines, just like the food truck has to go through the county health department. These healthcare units also have to get their licenses and be approved by the state health facilities of Michigan. So there are guidelines that must be followed in codes. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address council? Is there anyone online?
If anyone online would like to make a comment specific to this ordinance, please raise your hand now. No hands are raised.
All right, seeing none, council member.
Resolution number 2022-282. Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the public hearing to consider an ordinance titled temporary mobile healthcare established be officially closed. I so move.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor of closing the public hearing, please say aye. Seeing those opposed, wonderful. All right, so back to council for further discussion. Are there any additional comments, questions regarding the first reading of this ordinance? All right, wonderful. Seeing none. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Councilmember Lee Simmons, you have the consent agenda.
Resolution 222-283, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the following items be approved. Resolution approving the minutes of December 6th council meeting, as well as the resolution, which is resolution 222-284. And resolution number 222-285, approving the revised community benefits agreement with Renovare Developers for 220 North Park. And I so move. Support.
We have the motion and support. Is there any discussion?
No discussion on the consent.
Thank you.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
motion carries with 6 yes, 1 absent.
Moving on to resolutions and motion. Not sure how to be distributed these, so, I believe I have this one. Actually. Get this into the record. Resolution number 2022-286. Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas the city of Ypsilanti passed a community benefits ordinance in 2018 to allow community to negotiate benefits when an incentive is requested by a developer, and whereas the city council of the city of Ypsilanti approved community benefits agreement, CBA, and emergency services agreement, ESA, for 845 and 945 Clark Road and Clark Road Senior Limited Dividend Housing Association Limited Partnership and Clark Road Family Limited Dividend Housing Association Partnership in June 21st, 2022, and whereas the community benefits agreement was amended through action of council to require the owner to cause the West Clark Road improvements to extend to the end of the current public right of way, item 14 of the CBA, and whereas the eliminating item 14 of the community benefits agreement would allow this project to move forward and support the efforts of the community benefits committee appointed to negotiate the agreement. Now therefore be it resolved that the city council of the city of Ypsilanti amend this community benefits agreement with the Clark Road Senior Limited Dividend Housing Association Limited Partnership and Clark Road Family Limited Dividend Housing Association Partnership by striking item number 14 from the agreement and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement on behalf of the city, subject to review by the city attorney. Would anybody like to make that motion?
I could.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I move that.
Support.
Nice, moved and supported. Is there any presentation on this?
Kyle Grazer, from Lincoln Capital is attending virtually, so if I believe the council has any questions, either he or Joe Myers could answer.
All right. Questions from council about this? Mayor Pro Tem, who comes in? Is your hand up?
Yeah, I just have comments. Yeah, I brought this amendment to council when we were slated to put our input into this. There is a CBO and there is a CBA, but there's a defined role for council in that process, and so I brought an amendment forward for this. This was I brought it forth based on the commentary about the drainage on that road. I've been out to the site and walked with residents that from farther down from the Lusks to look at the drainage on there. I was surprised to see that this had come up. Desiree had given me a call and gave me a heads up on this, and thank you for that. I have questions about the way this is worded. It just says take it out. And so without seeing a plan for what this is going to look like, I find it difficult to vote on this because, the memo from the Lusk talks about the plan that they were initially presented with, and the fact that they weren't presented with this subsequent plan. I think the Clark County Road Commission about this and didn't get a response from them, so it's not clear to me where that plan has been distributed. So I question that. If I can get an answer to that from somebody from staff, then it'd be great.
Is there a response to?
I came in right at that, halfway through that, but you're looking for a response on.
Has there been a plan submitted to anybody at the city or to the county road commission? And it would have been nice to see that on the agenda, but.
I believe the plan that's been at the road commission, that's not something the city reviews because it's a county item. And so we don't have that internally at staff.
So, all right, I guess it's a question for Kyle then. One of the concerns about this was the drainage, and I know that, the rules in the statutes say that you can't have water draining from one property onto the other. It's hard to negotiate that after the fact, and that happened in our neighborhood, and that's been a problem. It's just a matter of, you know, the two owners taking that up. This doesn't strictly conform to that because it's a runoff from the road and property across the road, but it's been identified as an issue. And so, you know, I looked at the property out there and the way it had been set up with the drainage down the ravine. So now I'm wondering where the drainage is going to be alleviated so that it's not continuing down that road.
Sure. The way that it's being designed, in the road commission, just to kind of answer your earlier question, Councilmember Wilcoxen. The road commission is reviewing a plan right now, but what I am hesitant to do is send them through their review and engineering process if we're going to be held to a different requirement. So the way that we have currently proposed it to the road commission, and the way that they're viewing it favorably is that the stormwater collected on the entire portion of Clark Road that will be paved, which now terminates at our property line and gets collected in a cul-de-sac, that all of that stormwater will be drained through our development site. So it will not impact the other property. It'll be collected in a gutter and storm sewer system and drained through our property. And rather than running through the adjacent properties to the west and to the Huron River that way, it will run through our property to the Huron River. So there is a drainage plan. I think it is favorable. It's favorable insofar as it does not then require any easement or any taking of property of the adjacent property owners, and it still takes the stormwater that falls on the road and routes it through our property and doesn't impact other properties.
And so the drainage through your property, is that the storm sewer that goes directly to the river? Or is that filtration through the edge of the property?
So effectively, it goes, there's an above ground swale portion, and then there is a below ground piping. So just the stormwater goes above ground, then it gets piped below ground, and it does ultimately discharge at the Huron River, which is what Eagle wants for drainage in this area. Eagle is the Department of Energy and the Department of Environment and Great Lakes and Energy.
That's what I have. Thank you, Tom.
Any
Welcome.
additional questions or comments from council? All right, seeing none, Clerk Kalanga?
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
No.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
Motion carries with 6 yes, 1 no.
Thank you. Councilmember Somerville, you have our next resolution. Okay, resolution number 2022-287, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti. Whereas the city of Ypsilanti has an interest in cleaning up the water seat site, and whereas typo on this. The city has received funding from the state of Michigan and Washtenaw County to conduct this investigation and complete the remediation, and whereas completing this remediation will lessen the need for incentives on the site. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city council of the city of Ypsilanti approve the budget amendment for Water Street activities and approve the proposal from AKT Peerless for a cost not to exceed $326,000. And I so move. Moved and supported. Good evening, Joe.
Sorry about my 3 typos in this resolution.
Yeah, I want to edit them along.
You really should. I apologize for that. I was trying to get it to Andrew and take it down. So, thank you, everyone. as all of you have been made aware, thank you to Senator Jeff Irwin. We received a 4.6 or $4.4 million allocation from the state budget to help clean up Water Street. We're also hoping that we receive a $4 million allocation from Representative Dingle. And we've already received about a $400,000 allocation from Waccamaw County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, using some of our TIP capture as well as some of the local brownfield revolving fund to actually do this work. And so we need to actually, we got a proposal to actually do the grid work that is needed. I kind of explained it in the RFO, but essentially we need to do testing at 100 by 50 foot square. If there's contamination there, we need to hone in by 10 by 10 squares. So we figure out exactly where we need to remove the PCB contamination that we have on site, hopefully making it so this is good enough to meet residential standards, so we can build housing on Water Street. And so this is what I'm asking for. It's probably the biggest contract that we've had from Water Street in a number of years. However, it is due to the sizable contributions from the state, hopefully federal and county levels.
Thank you. Questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
So what is the total from the state and?
The state, I want to say it's 4.4 million.
It's close to 4 million.
Okay, so close to $4.5 million. 4.44 or 4.46 million dollars from the state. Like I said, we're hoping if the federal government passes their budget before the end of the year, Representative Dingle earmark will be in there, and then the county has issued, depending on costs, $300,000 to $400,000 to do this. And so kind of puts together one big pile. We need to do the testing anyway. And then as funding comes in, we can actually remediate different parts of it.
Are there other contaminants that are gonna be solely focusing on PCBs because they knew that was there, or soon will they have to?
The levels of PCB contamination are triggering TSCA levels. So if we get all of the contamination under 1,000 parts per billion, then we actually don't have to consider it a TSCA site, and that's our goal.
But are there other things like PAHs?
PCBs are the main one. There's a little bit of lead, but most of all the 10 acres of the site's really been cleaned up. But TSCA levels are a little bit more stringent than the state's levels. And TSCA, please don't ask me what that means. It's a federal government thing.
One last question is, what's included in TAP 6? The outside cleanup notifications and applications.
Task 6. So that is all the preparation work that needs to be done for the federal government to actually prepare all the reports. Whenever we have one of these testing done, usually 100 to 200 page report that needs to be compiled. With this one, because of the size and scale, we're looking at probably thousands of pages of reports.
And those notifications go to
the federal government, state government.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember D7, I think that's our hand.
Yeah, I just am really excited to see this, both because I fully have been saying that if we can clean up this property ourselves, that gives us more ability to do what we want to see and need for that site. And I'm hoping that, with these funds coming in, that could help to actually open a process for a coordinated commission, ad hoc committee to do some planning specifically for Water Street, to do community engagement work, and for us to start being able to design what that could look like and be proactive so that we can then try to find folks to do what it is that we're looking for. And also just recognizing that this is so aligned in terms of we're looking at funding from the federal government and the state with Justice 40 goals in terms of cleaning contaminated sites in areas that have populations like ours. Just excited to see this moving forward and thinking about, what that could mean for the community.
I could not agree more. And a year ago, I thought if we could get $1 million to clean up Water Street, that would be a goal. And I still don't know if Senator Irwin's office did it, but they kind of started a process that tumbled downhill so quickly. And with Representative Dingell, Washington County, we're looking really good, even if it's just the $4.5 million. Still looking really good.
Councilmember Somerville? You got a memo to me in 30 minutes. That's how it happened.
I will always get anyone a memo.
You are
State resources
staying on
first.
top of Water Tree, because if we wouldn't have gotten that in a 30, like literally 30 minutes, it would not have made it into the state budget. Yeah, thank you, Joe. That's what I was gonna add. Thank you so much for your quick turnaround time, because I heard all about this. I can't believe it happened. So thank you, and looking forward to, getting some more of this remediated, so we can move forward.
Yes.
Forward. Any additional comments or questions from council? All right, seeing none, Clerk Kalanga?
Councilmember Jay Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Absolutely, yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
motion carries unanimously.
All right, Councilmember Tucson, you have our next resolution.
I do. Resolution number 2022-288, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that the following residents be appointed to the city of Ypsilanti boards and commissions as indicated below. Sean Driscoll for the bicentennial committee, and I so move.
Support, been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Kalanga?
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Yes. Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Jay Simmons.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Congratulations, welcome time. All right, look at this. Okay, so we are at board and commission nominations. We have.
There's one more item, resolution.
Oh, my goodness.
22-288.
I'm so excited. Okay, Councilmember King, you have our next resolution.
Resolution number 2022-289, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas the city of Ypsilanti has received $40,000 over the next 2 years to implement a new coding program for high school age youth at New Park Ridge from the AACF Empowerment Grant Program. And FEP staff and the Ypsilanti Housing Commission will implement the grant program in partnership with Code 313 and Simpay tournaments to host 15 students between January and May 2023 and 2024. Now therefore, it is resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council approve the budget amendment as provided to the new grant program at New Park Ridge. That's a
Support, been moved and supported. Good evening, Christopher.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council. I want to start by introducing two important gentlemen in this initiative. Sergio from the Family Empowerment Program and Luke from Senpai Tournaments. And so they're really the operational guys. They're going to be the guys there every week doing this work. And so I naturally brought them along to answer any questions about operational stuff. This program was really serendipitous. When you put smart people like Sergio in positions in the Family Empowerment Program and they work in the Housing Commission properties, they come up with cool ideas. And so this one came from Anthony and Sergio talking about ways to re-engage high school youth that have really left Park Ridge Community Center following the pandemic. And so it's part of an overall strategy to re-engage that population who just don't show up to the Park Ridge Community Center much anymore, and to offer new things to compel folks to give it a try. And so this is based on the idea that kids that age like video games, and because they like video games, they also like knowing how they work. And so on one hand, for about 90 minutes, half the group will be playing the video games, and they'll swap over and learn how those games work on the Unity game engine. And fortunately, that doesn't require a lot of programming knowledge. It doesn't need to know binary code, stuff like that. It's pretty drag and drop. And so Code 313 is a really important partner in this work. You can do some research on Code 313, but it is a really important resource a business of color in an industry that otherwise doesn't have many. And they're an important part of this grant program, Bartel Welsh, we've been working with. And then Luke from Senpai Tournaments, and they're gonna be bringing the games to the councils and stuff like that. So it's fully paid for, $20,000 over the next 2 years. 15,000 goes towards the curriculum, 5,000 annually would go towards the video game console rental and the supervision during that time. And so the goal is to get this kicked off in January and run through the semester. And I can answer any other questions you might have about it.
Questions from council? Going once, going twice, sounds great.
Cool.
Thank you. Seeing none, Clerk Kalanga.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yeah.
motion carries unanimously.
Thank you both so much. Thank you. Thanks, Christopher. All right, got ahead of myself before. Board and commission nominations. So we have 2 here, and I believe there's some urgency behind.
Yes, Mayor and Council, these 2 appointments has been, I'm asking for immediate action. Their appointment or terms do expire at the end of this year, and their first meeting will occur on January 10th. So in order for them to participate in the meeting, council will need to take action today.
Aaron Lincoln.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, I support. And it's been supported by Councilmember Davis. Any discussion? All right, Councilmember Deason.
I just want to just to say that I definitely am looking forward to probably trying to go to a historic district commission meeting because we've had so many things come up that have been coming up because of historic commission issues. And so I'm just interested to talk with the folks and to think about, again, how we don't use our tools in ways that can further inequity and privilege some parts of our community more than others, so.
Thank you. Any further comments? All right. seeing
So this is a motion to suspend the rules and make an immediate appointment of these 2 members.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember D Simmons,
Yep.
Councilmember J Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, everyone. All right, we are now at liaison reports, Police Advisory Commission. There was no one in attendance at the meeting. It was held, due to, our new state representative swearing in ceremony. There was a conflict, so.
If council would like, I could give a brief update.
Yes, please.
The Police Advisory Commission had several topics that it went over. It was quite an extensive meeting. The main areas they have requested that council have hold 2 joint meetings for the Police Advisory Commission. They would like to see it done this year. And also they did pass some requests along to the city manager on the composition of the interview board. Thank you.
Oh, sure. Mayor Pro Tem.
I did stop by on the way back from the swearing in with Jimmy Wilson and caught the tail end of that. And I just want to say that it was nice to see that body having a discussion where everybody was engaging. I think that was certainly lacking in previous iterations of that and very, very cordial, but very very important discussions and including Lieutenant Yukits, the active chief Yukits. It was great to see that interaction. I think it was on a wholly different level than what we had in the past.
Thank you so much. HRC,
Not yet.
Arts Commission.
I think at the last meeting, I did not make the last meeting.
Parks and Rec.
Definitely, I did not make that either.
Sustainability.
Me. So from our most recent sustainability commission meeting, we actually did a deep dive into the opportunity index. We had Teresa Galati come out. And she helped us go through, so we like nerded out for, I don't know, probably like an hour and a half or something, I don't know. There's really interesting things that pop up, which I'm happy to talk about at different points with folks. But it's a good tool just to understand, and we were thinking about different ways that it can impact the work that we're doing in the city and different kind of services and ways that we can focus our work and attention. And then also just to say that the commission did express interest in having a joint meeting with city council at some point, and so they were asking about the process or how something like that could be planned. As we know that it needs to be planned far in advance, so just want to put that on out there too. Thanks.
Thank you. HDC. Nothing to report. Planning commission.
I was ill at the last one, the next one is tomorrow night, so I'll have more to say, the next meeting. Jen.
ZBA? That's nobody here, I think so. Great. Well, what was that, the last ZBA meeting was, what? I heard the last ZBA meeting was like. I don't know. I think it was okay. Was it? Yeah, okay. All right, liaison reports,
I'm sorry. I don't have.
What?
No meeting this month. No update.
There was no urban county meeting. The DDA met last Thursday. Approved an allocation for the bicentennial ball drop in the next week. Further some discussion on some items that have been ongoing. But good meeting, it was quick. Friends of Westwood Pool.
They are looking to realign the pool. They did a lot of work on the bathhouse in the past year during the pandemic, and got a lot of work done on that. The pool is now in need of resurfacing, and received an email from the board president that they're looking for a Spark grant to help fund that, but it's going to be in the next cycle since there's other work city staff putting in a Spark grant for this time. So that'll be forthcoming probably 2024.
Bicentennial.
Yeah, I guess an update from us, our subcommittee that's part of the events, we're actively making sure that everything's in place for New Year's Eve. We've gotten a lot of help from various staff members, so thank you everybody who's been answering my phone calls. And I know that we're gonna be bothering you over, unfortunately, over your break a little bit. But I'm excited. Hopefully we'll see everybody at either one of the ball drops. We have the 7 p.m. drop that's supposed to be friendly to people who like to go to bed before midnight. And then we'll have the midnight drop. We've got the Ypsilanti High School choir who will be at both ball drops. And we also have some great community members who are going to be the MCs of the event. Ryan Foley and Angel from Stardust Studio will be MCing the late night ball drop. And we're excited for that. And we also will have, by the end of this week, bicentennial merchandise that folks will be able to buy. So hopefully, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. If anybody has any ideas and what they would like to see bicentennial do, you can email the commission.
Oh, sorry, just a quick question, because what is the time? I feel like I saw that the time for the event started at 7, but I was like, I thought the ball drop was at 7.
Yeah, there's 2 ball drops, one at 7, one at midnight. We should probably do a better job at clarifying that there will be things leading up to 7. So yeah,
Okay.
there will be things going on. I know that Unicorn Feed and Supply is having like a pre-party for the 7 p.m. ball drop. The library will be out with the bookmobile. But yeah, so the ball drop will technically be at 7. The idea is that people will show up early.
Okay, so events might start at like 5 or something like that.
No, I would say that like the hour leading up, we'll have like, people will be out and we'll have like music, and the youth player won't start until like the half-hour mark.
Okay.
Because we're just assuming that a half-hour mark, people will probably be down here because of the jobs happening at 7, so I'll make sure that we are more clear on that. Yeah, there's not, other than the youth choir, that's like a major, like, I guess, show part of the whole like event. Everything else is kind of like, we'll have a playlist so people can get excited on music, and then the MC will kind of just like try to keep people engaged and excited leading up to the, I guess, the actual job. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, no problem. All right, now we're gonna move on to council proposed business. Councilmember King.
I just would like to say Saturday, December 31st, they are giving away free coats, free warm chili, and free personal items at Matthias Temple, 200 Harriet Street in Ypsilanti. And just because it is the holiday season, we know people experience a lot of death and loneliness. I would just say be kind.
Absolutely. What time was that again?
It will be from 12 to 3 p.m.
Thank you. Councilmember Decent.
Yes, thank you. So a couple of quick things. One, we got some communication from resident Bill Teepen, who was expressing different noise complaint issues. But I thought it was interesting. I wanted to mention it because Mr. Teepen also sent in a response, kind of asking questions about why he feels like he only can call the police. And so just in terms of like asking for different alternatives for dealing with these kinds of issues, which also to me lifted up another issue with a resident, Amy Clarice, who has been dealing with a neighbor's dogs who have been getting into her yard and killing her chickens. And again, that the current response isn't dealing with the deep conflict, right? And so how we could have different responses that can deal with those conflicts and try to make sure that the situation doesn't escalate. And so I know that this is something that we've been talking about, and I know we're getting ready to work on our goals. So just lifting that up, that this is coming up in community. Also, I'm also interested at the last meeting, we talked about the idea of having some kind of fair or something for city commissions. And I was just thinking about how that could expand to city commissions, neighborhood associations, and hubs, kind of like a resource fair kind of thing, where folks can come and learn different ways that they can collaborate and connect with the city. And so I'm just wondering, I guess this is a question in terms of thinking about how we can move this forward in terms of thinking about timing and et cetera. You know, I know there's a lot of things that can go into it and connecting with all the commissions and things. So just kind of what that process might be for us actually making that happen. I just want to name support for the graduate employment organization as they're in the midst of their bargaining right now. And we have a lot of members in our community from GEO. And especially a lot of folks who moved here because of being priced out of Ann Arbor. So just sending them luck. The other thing is thinking about traffic calming. So this is something that I know comes up to council a lot with like, we need speed bumps and we need these things. And I know I live on a street where people, for some reason, feel that they need to zoom, you know, between stop signs. So but I'm wondering whether there could be a more kind of holistic approach, or people can kind of look into this more specifically in terms of different traffic calming things that we could do, including speed bumps, but maybe other things outside of the speed bumps. And whether this is something that like the non-motorized commission or something could work on. So I'm just trying to get a sense of where some of this could sit. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is I'm also interested in planning a ward community meeting for early next year, and so just trying to figure out the process for what I need to do for that besides kind of choosing a date.
We have to step out for a minute. If you just wanted to move on down the line.
Certainly do that then. I had conversations with a couple of constituents recently that travels abroad and public address. You've addressed it here many times, we've taken that up in terms of parks and was going to, one park at a time to do that. But I also participated in a training this morning from, that was led, co-led by the Ann Arbor Police Department and the county mental health staff, in terms of how to deal with it. It was specifically targeted at retailers, and I thought it was an interesting training. There was the police perspective, and then the community mental health was great, and it gave resources for how to deal with that. And I'd like to get that on the agenda and make that available to retailers in our community as well. Maybe not so much from the Ann Arbor Police Department, perhaps somebody from our police department could participate in that and partner with them, but certainly giving community mental health to either present to the DDA or to just have a public training for that.
Councilmember Somerville. I don't have any council proposed business, but I am going to hand the clerk my formal resignation from my city council seat. And it's been really great to serve with everyone, so I'm looking forward to continue working with everyone, so thank you.
That's tonight.
I'm
Let me even say, it's over.
Yeah. Councilman Somerville, for the last time, thank you so much for all of your work and your time and your dedication and your grit and your fortitude, and being a fierce advocate for the work for the city. And we look forward to continuing to work with you as a county commissioner. Oh, man, great. You're so amazing. And we know we'll see you here because you are committed, so you will be accountable. So, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was sorry, but all right, so, Councilmember Jason.
Sorry, well, not to let the ink dry, I guess on Andy's resignation. That, I think that means that we could choose a new member, based on our interviews that we had today. Is that correct? Andy, is that correct? Yes.
Right.
I guess I would like to make a motion that we do that process, make that selection tonight.
Oh, are you making a motion that we consider appointing someone tonight?
Yes, thank you.
So it's been moved. Is there support for that? So it is supported. Discussion. Councilmember DeSantis.
Yeah, I actually very much am not for that. I think that given the sense of thinking about how to make the process more democratic, I personally would like to give time for the residents of Ward 3 to actually weigh in on what they heard and saw from the candidates and give them a chance. I think in the materials that we said wouldn't happen until our meeting in January, so I would like to hold to that.
All right. Thank you. Additional comments or questions from council?
I agree. I personally was not prepared to make a decision tonight. I took all my notes and I want to look at it and make sure I pick the best candidate.
Additional comments, questions about the motion on the floor? I personally, I am okay with making a decision today. I think that we've had a lot of input from the community, for, you know, all the candidates. The point of having, done an interview in succession and for us to be able to listen and ask the questions. And I think that with the holiday break coming, to allow folks to prepare for our first meeting, especially because we have goal setting, we have to submit our goals by tomorrow. That would allow for whoever is appointed to at least be able to contribute to that conversation. Because our goal setting starts on January 10th. So we have a really tight schedule, and unfortunately, the way the dates are set up, City Hall will be closed for the holiday break as well within the next 3 days. Are there any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem O'Connor.
You know, in all the hiring that I've done, I've never made a decision the day of the interview. We've been through this process before. I think we all know. What's that? No, what I'm saying is my own personal. Is that, you know, that's letting that sit to weigh the responses to the question. I think there's merit to that. I can appreciate the, I'm kind of I can appreciate the scheduling, but I also appreciate, you know, having, the public input for that, and also just mulling it over. I got answers to these questions tonight that, I found surprising. In some ways, but not in other ways. But I would certainly, appreciate the time to think about it. But could move either way. Perfectly.
Okay, additional comments, questions?
I know I don't give a vote. But, my own opinion, I don't give a vote. Is that it would be great to have the appointed person be a part of the full process. Going forward, as far as goal setting and putting their goals in, because we do have a timeline, as you said, so I do agree with that. Because everything has to be approved by the first meeting in February. So, that's my thought as well. But I don't have a vote.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing your input.
I have a question about
Mayor Pro Tem?
the goals tomorrow. Is there a way to interject another meeting before the 10th to accomplish those two things, or is there a way to incorporate the goals from the new person?
We don't have a meeting until the 10th, unless we call it special.
Got a question. Is that possible? Okay.
I think my opinion is that we've often had opportunities to like get things done in advance, and then when staff doesn't have ample time to compile the things we submit, then we also give criticism for not being prepared. So I'm more concerned about that, because I feel like we have rushed certain things in the past because we just don't have enough time to put it together, and that is something that deeply like moves me to not have time to really give staff the time to present to us what we've given them. And then we turn around and provide, you know, feedback on that.
On staff.
On staff, right, yeah, on staff. And I do want folks to be able to enjoy their break, and they're already gonna have to work a little bit over the break to the bicentennial, and we're adding more. But, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that some members, you know, want some extra time. I mean, I didn't think there was any earth shattering answers, or maybe just get an application to review. That I think was, you know, that provided a lot of information. You know, and I think this has been a process that folks in the board have known about. We've definitely had communications from them. So, you know, the part of it is that once we move forward, because like, you know, I keep belaboring processes too. You know, it's gonna be several weeks now, and because we have this budget, you know, the goal setting dates, and I think it would be nice for the person to get up to speed, be able to participate fully versus like your January 10th, and you know, welcome, and by the way, they start getting into this, and then also for them to have an opportunity to think about goals and be able to submit them. You know, I don't know that, they'll have tons of time for that, but maybe, you know, give them a little extra time. But, you know, again, that would allow them to be able to participate and kind of represent, you know, the word fully with their ideas.
Thank you. Councilmember B. Simmons?
I mean, you know, I'm still trying to pull together my goals and I'm still trying to figure out that process myself. And I've been here, right, for the past, since November. So I'm trying to imagine how someone coming on tonight, could somehow catch up and jump through that for tomorrow. That, you know, when they would be joining in the meeting, our first meeting, when we're supposed to be starting that process anyhow, and having those conversations. So I also feel like, you know, then it's also thinking about process, it feels, I don't know, I definitely am feeling like, oh, we're in council proposed business and now we're jumping back into something and then deciding what is the process for how we're going to actually even do the appointment at almost 9 o'clock. So when I thought we were about to leave, but, yeah.
So I don't disagree that like waiting, I can understand the wanting to wait, but I also think like you just said, you've been here since November and are having like kind of figure it out. So someone who comes on the 10th will have like little to no time, they will have access to any of our materials until they are appointed. And so that's my concern is if we already need lead time on our own, what would someone who doesn't have any of the information? They would need some time too. And right now we won't have any because the city will be closed. But again, there's a motion on the floor, we can vote on it and then we'll go up again. We'll move from there, but I do know that the process did state that we could appoint on tonight. If there's no further comment, we can vote. Clerk Kalika.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember D. Simmons,
No.
Councilmember J. Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen,
Yeah, you wanna say it?
No.
I think he said no, like no.
Vote was no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
motion fails.
All right, so we will appoint at our first meeting in January, I believe. Thank you. All right, communications from. Oh.
So, in an update to the last time I spoke during our proposed business, in regards to the Winter Empowerment Tour, the third annual Winter Empowerment Tour being held by the clean.org. I said that I would try and get more information on the dates and locations and times. I was in communication with them, but they haven't had any dates, or times in stone. But they are meeting in 5 different locations between Detroit 2 times, Inkster, Highland Park, and Ypsilanti. So I'm just going to encourage everybody in attendance, physically and virtually, to go ahead over to their Facebook page, The Cream Incorporated, and their website, thecream.org, to be updated on the places, like the specific addresses and times and dates that they will be in these 5 different locations. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies. All right, my communication. So I've already said my goodbyes and thank you to council member or former council member Summerfield. But I also see Attorney Barr in the back of the room, and I wanted to make sure to acknowledge that he has officially resigned from his position with the city attorney's office because he is going to be sworn as our next judge. And so we're very excited. And we just thank you so much for all the work you've done for the city. You've been so accessible and present and helpful and just kind. And so we thank you for all the years that you provided, to the city attorney's office, and we wish you the best of luck in your new position.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity, the present council and those that have come before you, as well as staff. It's been such a pleasure working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, another community event, I just lost it, that was happening on Friday is the toy drive at Lot G. It starts at, 12 p.m. There are also, donation stations outside of Puffer Red and, I don't know what the other location is off the top of my head, but they have drop-off locations where you can donate, and you can also continue donating up until the 23rd. But it is the first toy drive being completed in the city, with, this organization. And so we encourage folks to participate, donate if you can. They also have an Eventbrite if you want to donate, funds rather than items. And the event will take place this Friday at 12 o'clock. At Lot G. And then finally, for me, I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday. This is our last meeting before the new year, so happy holidays to everyone, happy new year to everyone. I hope to see folks at some of the bicentennial activities and the ball drop in the coming week. And let's get some rest so we can start the new year strong. So thank you. Community manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As you see on your agenda, the proposed goal setting dates, please keep those in mind. We have, myself and the clerk interviewed 2 candidates as facilitators, and we have chosen one. And we expect to have a different process this time. The first meeting, January 11th, the schedule is basically going to be our department heads presenting, because we realize we do have a new council. And so they're going to be talking about actually what they do in their departments and what their goals are. So it will help you, as you might want to rearrange your goals. As you listen to them, you'll know where they belong. And it's also going to be a time to kind of get to know each other, because we don't know each other. So we won't have a facilitator here, but that is how it's going to go forth on that session. And then the next session, there will be the goals distributed as they were compiled, and they will be ranked, and then we'll have discussion. And so we're really excited about it. I am. Also wanted to say to keep in mind to think about when you're voting next time, how it will occur, seeing that we don't have an odd number. So we can get deadlocked. So I just want to make sure that we think about it, how we're gonna go about that in advance. Next, all of you should have received an email from me about the police profile. I did ask for comments. I did not receive any. However, we did make some additions and edits to it. And if you have anything, please try to get it to me before the end of the week, because we want to have this published while we're on the break. I think I did tell you the date that we wanted to get it out. So please look over that really well. I've listened and I'm taking into consideration the suggestions for the interview panel. As I stated, and then was also stated by the facilitator, having a large number is not recommended. So I'm going to put this out here early, because we have YPAC who has asked for 2 people. I know that's not going to be possible. And who else? Oh, I am trying to see how I can implement having someone from the police department, or either I'm going to make sure that I interject their wishes in what they like to see in a police chief. So if anyone on council objects to that, please let it be known. I mean, I guess if you felt strongly and took a vote that I have to add somebody from the police department, then I would, but it has not been recommended, and from talking with the facilitator, she thought it probably is a good idea just to get their feedback and to know what it is that they want. Next thing, I just kind of want to give you an update on some things that I'm working on. One of them is a telework policy. I'm really excited about it because since the pandemic, now we're in a new season of having more people still wanting to work from home for various reasons. This is an advantage. I've looked at data, I've looked at articles. It actually is a recruiting strategy. Some people like it. But it just depends on what the job description is and if they can actually, be successful and still, in their job position and teleworking. So wanted to let you know that that's something we're working on. Also, I'm happy to announce that we did settle the home agreement this last week. I was in the negotiation sessions and they went very well. So now we have no outstanding collective bargaining agreements. We will have a closed session per usual to talk about it before. I said before it goes to home for a vote of ratification, and then we'll proceed. And I think that's all I have. I want to say everyone have a happy holiday.
Thank you. Mr. Barr.
Yes, I'd like to mention in regard to Desiree Simmons, Council Member Desiree Simmons, we mentioned two items, dogs and noise. I'd like to address the dogs first. The state law provides that the county is responsible for dog control in the county. The cities at one time had a dog control officer and some ordinances. However, for financial and other reasons, the city does not have a dog control ordinance and does not have a dog control officer. So any complaints about dogs should be directed to the county, I believe probably to the county sheriff. In regard to the noise ordinance, I did see the item on the city website concerning the noise. I went by the property and I boarded up the police reports concerning that property, and I will be taking a look at them hardly.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. All right, let's see, communication. So again, our council goals are due by close of business tomorrow. Yeah, all right, so this is our second opportunity for our public comment. If anyone would like to address council, please raise your hands. In person or virtually. Mr. Tucson.
First of all, council, you guys see that gentleman right there, Mr. Barr, y'all keep that man, cause he know what he's talking about. He been knowing what he's talking about for over 30-some years. So y'all keep him. Yes, I am an agitator. I've been agitating since 1986. And because of my agitating, there's a lot of things that has come clean in the city of Ypsilanti. I talked about being impressed. I was impressed a couple of days ago when my receivers went off in my house, various police departments responding to a missing person. And when I went outside and I saw the various police departments assisting, I was impressed because they apprehended the person right next door to me. I was impressed. I'm gonna always give honor to whom honor is due. But an 11-year-old girl that had special needs, she was abducted and raped. And we did not get no assistance. Listen to me. We didn't get no assistance on that little girl being raped and thrown off in the bushes like a dog from the YPD. They did not impress me. Case closed.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
quickly, Valerie Brown, quickly, guys, please, if you would just consider what I said earlier about the safety between Hamilton and Ferris and East Ainsworth. That's important. Right now it's winter, we don't have kids out. But when kids are out, that's the safety issue, and when drivers are going east or west with, the cars that are coming, south onto East, Ferris, or I don't know what that's called, but on Ferris, that's huge. We were almost in a head-on collision because, you know, now that the speed bump is gone, it's winter, folks are speeding. They can't see the stop sign that's there. It's a problem, and I just think that parking on that right side should not be. Thank you so much. Please give it some consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council? Are there any hands online?
If you're online and would like to make comment to city council, please raise your hand. You'll have 3 minutes. No hands are raised.
Thank you. Seeing none, again, happy holidays, Councilmember Day Simmons.
Resolution number 2022-290, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, that the council meeting be adjourned.
Oh, we're gonna adjourn. Oh,